Hello and welcome to Ryno's Orioles Report. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. This is going to be a little bit of a spring training edition, not a regular season edition, obviously. Got about 2 more weeks-ish left in spring training before the regular season starts. I'm really not going to talk about how spring training is going and who's hitting this number and who's hitting that number and whatnot and whatnot. It's more about who's going to be on the major league roster, I guess, is probably the better way to describe it. And I'm not going to talk about which prospect, Orioles prospect, is going to be on the roster just yet, as several more weeks for the coaching staff to decide that. It's going to be talking about this episode, probably going to talk about, where I am going to talk about, talk about the outside acquisitions that are probably going to make the team. And again, I say probably because you really have no idea at this point. You can see I'm on MASNsports.com. This is the Orioles home section. Take a look at what I'm alluding to, where we don't know yet. We think, as the headline says, this is really a press release type deal by the MASN staff. Orioles signed Julio Teheran and infielder Colton Wong to minor league deals. Now, again, they're minor league deals. There's no guarantee that they're going to be on the major league roster. It is likely, as they are proven baseball players, major league baseball players, that they'll be on the roster, because otherwise it'd be filled with a bunch of kids. As for Colton Wong, it's something the Orioles have been doing for the past, I don't even know how many years now. They've been bringing in a veteran infielder presence, whether it's been VR, Iglesias, Galvis, Frazier last year. It's nothing but a bunch of young kids, homegrown, not necessarily homegrown, Orioles farm system grown talent on the infield. Henderson, Holiday, maybe Rios for the most part, Westberg and Mountcastle. They were all within this organization, bringing in some outside help, somebody that's been around. It's something they have been doing. Now, we kind of saw a reduction in playing time for Adam Frazier last year, especially towards the end with the emergence of Westberg, if you can really call Westberg an emergence. Westberg did fine. He just, he didn't light the world on fire. So there is some need to get a veteran infielder. They didn't go out and get a veteran outfielder because there's probably a lot bigger logjam in the outfield than, the infield for the Orioles farm system. Though it is disappointing that they weren't able to keep Aaron Hicks around. I kind of would have liked that. A proven playoff player. That's what we're really looking for. We're not looking for just major league talent. We want guys that can come through in the playoffs. I mean, as we saw last year, you can have a really good record in the regular season. What does it mean for the postseason? Nothing. It means nothing. But Colton Wong has seen playoff time, so could add something there. Julio Teheran hasn't had the greatest major league career, but again, a proven pitcher. So when you have injuries, downside to spring training, John Means, Kyle Bradish look like they won't be ready for opening day. Kind of sucks. So for the most part, that is why Julio Teheran is here. Now, if John Means and Kyle Bradish were healthy and ready to go for opening day, Teheran's probably not going to get an invite. and I'm starting with the low-key acquisitions, okay? I know there's a few big names that the Orioles added, and it's really only two, but save the best for last, I guess. A few other names as some other players that they brought in. This Andrew Suarez signed a minor league contract. He's getting a lot of looks in spring training. He looks okay. Did I say Andrew Suarez? Did I fumble his name? I don't remember, actually. It's that time of the year. Allergies and such kind of messing with me. Suarez does look okay. I'm not so sure that he'll break camp with the major league club, but he's a lefty. And the way, especially in the bullpen, pitchers have gone up and down because, so many innings here and so many innings by this pitcher and whatnot. There's a good chance that we could see Suarez this year. Whether it will be to start the season or not. But I have a feeling that he will pitch sometime for the Major League Club. We're going to see him on the mound at Camden Yards. How good he's going to perform, I mean, he's kind of... Again, he's a low-key acquisition. He's not too big of a name. Another name, a familiar name. Again, a low-key acquisition. He's just going to be a... What would the word be? He's going to be a player. He's not going to be a superstar like a Adley Rutschman or Gunnar Henderson or some of the pitchers the Orioles have brought in. Tyler Nevin back with the Baltimore Orioles. The trade with the Detroit Tigers. Looks like Nevin's getting a lot of looks at third base, or majority of his looks at third base. I think it is kind of up in the air whether Henderson will play shortstop or third as a majority. To a certain extent, I don't think Brandon Hyde would commit Henderson to one position, at least just as of yet, because it's kind of the nature of some of the defensive positioning. It does need to be more fluid sometimes. This player gets hot, that player gets hot, yada, yada, yada. Henderson's probably going to be hot regardless, but you can't have like 3 third basemen who are going to trade off getting hot and you just leave Henderson at shortstop. It's not going to happen like that. So you're bringing in some of these other guys. You still got Urias, so we don't know how he defensively, Urias is going to be fine at the plate. Nevin does have a little bit more power, though I think he lacks, at least compared to Urias, in defense. What was some of the other names that they brought in? There's Colton Wong and Tehran again. It was somebody from the Tigers. Shortstop or utility man Nick Maton. Another trade with the Tigers. This is a separate deal, but also a trade from the Tigers for cash, which is slightly odd. But again, you have a few infield pieces: Wong, Maton, Nevin. You don't know exactly where some of the pieces are going to fall. Is Westberg going to break camp with the Major League Club? Probably. I think he acquitted himself very well last year. So I think he's going to be around. And Henderson is there, of course. Now, who's the rest of your infield? Urias, probably, sure. You still got a few other spots to fill, and it really looks like they want Mateo to play the outfield. Okay. I don't know why he's not your backup shortstop. The kind of range that he had. Yes, he does make some errors, but you know what? He gets to a lot more balls than people don't get to because he's so fast. Not sure why they're getting away from Mateo at shortstop. But, however, especially because you got so many other outfielders, I think it is to a certain extent because of Mateo's speed. If Mullins can't go, is Hayes fast enough to cover center field? For the most part, yeah, but who's covering left field, especially in Camden Yards with a bigger outfield now? Do you want McKenna to be on the roster? Good defensively, but offensively, he's kind of low tier. Not that Mateo's really any better, but Mateo's speed transfers to offense, I think, a little better than McKenna's. So I think there is some reasoning there for that and why they're bringing in more of these utility type infielders to play the bench and moving Mateo out to the outfield. But I'm sure we'll see Mateo at shortstop once or twice. Brandon Hyde does like to pinch hit and defensive position. He came up in the National League and that was their thing. And Brandon Hyde doesn't believe that should go away. And for the most part, I think a lot of managers are, because just because there's no DH doesn't mean there's no double switching, and you can't try to gain an advantage by putting this hitter at the plate versus, keeping the same guy that started there. So having more options, I think, is really where Brandon Hyde in the league is going in general. All right, we're done talking about that. Let's go to some of the big names. This name right here. The earliest one that dropped, I think, in December, signing of Craig Kimbrell. 2-year, I thought it was a 2-year, no, you know what, I think it's a 1-year deal with some kind of option for a second year. It was either team or player option, or maybe it was a both option. I can't remember. So there is potential for us to have Craig Kimbrell for 2 years. Craig Kimbrell is a proven closer. Is he the same pitcher he was 10 years ago? No, but that doesn't mean that he can't get you a bunch of outs at the closer spot. I think to a certain extent, in my opinion, I think he's going to be better than Felix Bautista. And I know one of the knocks I've heard on Kimbrell is, he can get walk happy. Okay. And Bautista didn't? I mean, Bautista was great. He had, 103-mile-an-hour fastball and a splitter off of it. I mean, it's a great combination. He did get wild at times. He did get inaccurate at times. And he did not, in my opinion, pitch very well with a runner or two on base. His accuracy went way down. So I think, for the most part, why I think Kimbrell is an upgrade. He's been there and he's done that. And the moment, I think, will never be too big for Craig Kimbrell. Can't say the same thing for Felix Bautista because he was young. I mean, not only in age, but in closing experience. Well, you can't say that about Craig Kimbrell. I mean, remember the game in New York? Felix Bautista, Aaron Judge was like the clash of the Titans. What happened? Oh, Aaron Judge took him deep. It was during one of Bautista's inaccurate phases. Couldn't get the splitter to drop into the strike zone, so he's got to go to the fastball. If you can time it, Bautista's supplying all the power. Not that Judge needs anybody else to supply his power. So, yeah, I really think it's going to be an upgrade. For the most part, it's mentally because, he's ice water in his veins because he's been there and done that and bought the t-shirt or got the t-shirt. How's the saying go? However, whichever way they say it. Where is that? Okay. Here was another deal. Happened about a month ago. We did kind of think that one of the infielders that might be fighting for a spot would be Joey Ortiz, and one of the left-handers in the bullpen fighting for a spot in the bullpen would be DL Hall. Not the case anymore, at least not for the Baltimore Orioles. because Joey Ortiz, DL Hall dealt to the Milwaukee Brewers, and the Orioles in return get Corbin Burnes, Cy Young winning pitcher. So to a certain extent, Orioles have upgraded, in my opinion, a few, two real key spots, but I think one of probably the biggest weaknesses I think they had last year. And yes, I understand, Batiste was great, but I especially because he got injured late, so closer was kind of a weakness, and he was relatively inaccurate at times. Starting pitching was another thing that kind of failed the Orioles last year. Wells got tired. We'll say that Wells got tired. Grayson Rodriguez kind of struggled to get his footing. John Means was a little more absent than everybody would have liked. Your mainstays were Kyle Gibson, Dean Kramer, and Kyle Bradish. Well, Bradish had a great season. Gibson's season was okay. And Kramer's season was okay. But that's fine for a starting pitcher. You got 5 of them. You can have a few that are okay. But you went out and you signed this free agent, Kyle Gibson, spending a lot of money for a starting pitcher. Well, maybe not a lot of money, but usually starting pitchers cost more than other positions. And, he pitched fine. He pitched fine. But didn't really have a true ace on the roster. Though Bradish did look like he might become the ace. We'll see. He's having injury problems now. But Corbin Burnes, you can't say that about Corbin Burnes. Corbin Burnes is the ace here. Hopefully he likes Camden Yards enough. Camden Yards has been adjusted over the past few years to be more of a pitcher's park. So hopefully Corbin Burnes finds it much to his liking. The Orioles didn't have to give up too much. I think that was some of their reasoning in the past of why they didn't make a bigger splash on the starting pitching front. What did they have to give up? You only had a few options because some of these guys like a DL Hall or Joey Ortiz didn't have didn't have them in that much clout behind them because all they were some prospects. Well, you've seen them in action in Major League time. More years go by, the more you can see some of these guys in a Major League setting. The book is a little bigger on them, and maybe a team like, let's say the Brewers here, has seen what they can do more. Therefore, maybe you have to give up a little less if you were Mike Elias and you're doing a deal like this. Because you have a few other guys that are going to take the spot of these 2 gentlemen here. One of them may be Jackson Holliday. We'll see about that one. So, I really look, and maybe this is just me being hopeful, I look for the Orioles to have much better showing. Maybe about the same amount of showing as in the regular season this year, but expect them to do a lot better in the postseason. You got Corbin Burnes now. You got Craig Kimbrell, stone cold closer. Hopefully Bradish gets back right. John Means, hopefully we can finally see more of him. Grayson Rodriguez, Dean Kramer, another year of experience under their belts. Wells, we'll see what happens to Wells, because that's 6 starting pitchers? They may go to 6 starting pitchers. That did seem to work for him at times last year. It really did. Because it gave guys more rest and therefore could maybe go a few extra innings in every start and therefore save the bullpen a little bit. Instead of that bullpen having to cover 5 innings every game. And also, Wells has done good out of the bullpen at times. So options there. And wrapping up here, I'll summarize, or I guess I'll finalize with this. Check this article on Masson.com written by Rock Kubatko. Really, he just goes and talks to the rest of the team about, obviously, Corbin Burnes being officially named the opening day starter. Yes, everybody's relatively happy. I'm sure they're all slightly disappointed they didn't get it, but I think some of them knew they weren't going to get it. Not performing too well. Burnes is the big acquisition. Mr. Ace coming to the Baltimore Orioles. Been a long time since I think we could say that. I mean, John Means was the ace for a while, but arm problems. So I guess we have seen it. We just, we went through that last year with, no ace, really. It's kind of disappointing. Though it did look like a few guys were going to be an ace, but Corbin Burnes finally did a blockbuster trade. Waiting for that to happen. All these prospects that Elias has been gathering up over the years. When was he going to make a big splash and get a big-time guy? Well, there he is. Mr. Corbin Burnes. He's going to be the opening day starter. Has at least one Cy Young. Just one Cy Young? I don't remember. Does have some kind of funky curveball slider type deal that I think earlier in spring training Mullins saw and was like, what was that thing? Yeah, so does look like the team is rallying around the new guy. Though his spring training numbers doesn't seem to be too good, but we'll see. What's my plan as far as shows? I'll have to lock down on when the actual date is. Yeah, no definitive date on when I'll do the next video, but I do want to give it a few more weeks and more dominoes fall as to who's making the roster and who's still fighting for the roster. I want it to get to the point where there's only a few question marks before I do a video leading up to the regular season. Would like it to be closer to spring training ending and regular season beginning. But it's going to do it for this edition of Ryno's Orioles Report. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. I am the Angry Ryno, and this is Birdland.